How does this end? Somebody in Russia has to step up to the plate. Is there Brutus in Russia? Is there a more successful Colonel Stauffenberg in the Russian military? The only way this ends, my friend, is for somebody in Russia to take this guy out. You would be doing your country a great service and the world a great service. I'm hoping somebody in Russia will understand that he's destroying Russia and you need to take this guy out by any means possible. Yeah, I hope he'll be taken out one way or the other. I don't care how they take him out. I don't care if we send him to The Hague and try him. I just want him to go. Yes, I'm on record.
A sitting U.S. Senator, Lindsey Graham, openly on the record calling for the assassination of Vladimir Putin. The source presents this as way more than just tough talk. It's a major escalation that just shatters the norms of foreign policy. And he said it again. The source uses these quotes to really drive home just how intense this call was. It makes you wonder, do we really want to live in a world where assassinating a head of state is seen as a legitimate tool of foreign policy?
So the source's take on this is pretty stark. This isn't a sign of strength, it's an admission of defeat. It argues that calling to take Putin out proves that Western leaders have no other plan, and maybe more importantly, that they fundamentally misunderstand that no one leader in Russia has total control. The source contends that removing him wouldn't lead to surrender. It would probably just lead to chaos.
What would happen if your president were to be assassinated by the Ukrainians or Europe or the United States? What would be the next?
Let's hope that would not happen. But then, of course, that would mean that we will punish. Hopefully not the United States, but Europe will be taken away from the map of the humanity. It should be pushed away from the geopolitical and geostrategic map because it is a nuisance. I hope it would not be punished in the physical way, though I'm starting to say that these idiots do not understand anything but physical pain. And that sooner or later we have to go after the ladder and escalation. And if they do not stop this senseless war and hostility in and around Ukraine, then we would have to start to attack Europe with conventional weapons. And then next step will be waves of nuclear strikes. I hope we wouldn't reach that point because using nuclear weapons, any weapon is a sin. But using nuclear weapons is a double sin, and I don't want to be Russia to be that big a sinner. We have all our sins. But if needed, we have to eliminate the European threat to humanity.
How far are we from Russia using nuclear weapons against Europe?
2 years. Now, if they do, well, 1 year. Well, first of all, I've been calling on my government to escalate earlier. But President Putin is very religious and he's cautious. And we have been climbing up the ladder of escalation, changing our nuclear doctrine and lowering the nuclear threshold, building up our nuclear potential in Europe and else, but in the hope that we could stop them before crossing the threshold. As I've said, I think that Putin believes that using nuclear weapons, and I believe, by the way, is a sin. But it might be a necessary sin in order to save humanity. That's why I have been calling for limited use of nuclear weapons against Europe, because otherwise the world would drift into a third world war, towards which Europeans are pushing all of us. I mean, they have already done that twice in history, sucking the United States. you a couple of times saved them, you Americans. We once suffered, but then saved them again. But now they're back, and with the old game, and we have to either to punish them or to help them to change their minds. It is not. I'm not calling for regime change, but if Europeans do not change these elites for more national-oriented, for more responsible, they are doomed. And I hate this idea because culturally I'm a European. Of course, we are moving towards Siberia, we're moving towards East. We are saying and sincerely that we are becoming a Eurasian nation, or returning back to where we belong, to become the Eurasian nation. But the loss of Europe would be a pity.
Before I ask you about what you think Russia should do relative to the rest of the world, become Eurasian rather than European, which it seems to be doing, if there were nuclear strikes from Russia into Europe in the next year or two, as you said there may be, what countries would that include?
Well, we are online, so I have written that several times, that if we strike Poznan, Americans would never respond. Americans would never respond anyway. But if we, and I hope the Poles are becoming, by the way, more sensible. They understand that they are playing with fire, and they're trying to retreat from the front lines of this conflict. But my choice would be Britain and Germany.
You take out Britain and Germany with nuclear weapons.
I beg our Almighty that wouldn't happen.
Yes,
but Germany should be the first, because Germany is the source of the worst in the European history.